Hi, everybody. Welcome to all of our legions of fans. This is the Pod Podcast, the world's greatest podcast with the coolest name. And we're here, as always, to talk through our founder origin stories. Every one of these is different and unique, like a snowflake. And no different today with Dan Abel here to talk about the founder origin story of Chocolate, 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 and how that business came to be. It's a powerhouse of a business and happy to hear more about it. So, Dan, let's start. If you can take it from the top, thanks for joining us, first of all.
Oh, thanks.
And let's hear about how this happened because there's a lot to unpack here with this kind of a brand.
So actually, my dad was in college and in the late '70s and started working for a candy company. Out of it, it was a college job. Started in the warehouse, and he kind of started as like an Amazon style job, order picking in the warehouse. And the candy part was just the product they sold. It had nothing to do with the first phase of his job. And then really liked the company, really liked candy, and then was able to start learning more of the operation at this very large candy company and worked in their candy kitchen, worked in their retail stores. But he was from St. Louis and he was engaged to my mom, who was also in St. Louis, so it was long distance at the time. And he wanted to go back to St. Louis and start his own. So he told the ownership, he says, I want to go back in about 6 months and start my own. And, since it was the '70s, pre Facebook, pre social media, there was the distance between Ohio and St. Louis was a very long distance. So they had no problem with that. They said, well, happy to get you set up and started. And he opened his first brick and mortar retail chocolate shop in February of 1981 with a candy kitchen in the back, retail store in the front, and did everything out of one space. And that was the operation really until '98 when we opened up a second store. And then, my siblings, we all got in the business over the years later, and my dad was very encouraged that we wanted to join the business, but also very strict with, hey, the growth must come. Otherwise, there's no, the business can't support four families um, as it stands. So you're going to have to grow it to get it bigger. Otherwise, you can't get paid. Um, and we took that to heart. we, we ran with that.
Yeah, I would imagine that that's a wake up call if you didn't need one already, right? But so how did so the business coincidentally that's I was born at that same time, February 81.
Oh,
So
no kidding.
so from the time that I was born to the time that I would graduate from high school, the business was a one shop brick and
One
mortar
shot. Yep.
business. And then in the past 20 years, you guys have been exponentially growing. So what was that inflection point like and how did that come to pass?
We opened up a couple more retail stores, and it's always this chicken and egg thing because what happens is, from a manufacturing perspective, as you open up more stores, then we had a small candy kitchen which was very capable of handling a few retail stores at a time. But then we started to tax the kitchen, so we decided, well, if we're going to grow manufacturing, how how big do we grow manufacturing? And so then we had this intermediary candy kitchen that we opened up in 2000 and it was actually a company we bought and moved some of our manufacturing over there in 2009, and we thought that phase would hold us over for about 5 years. And that's when I was out of college, my sister was out of college, and we started knocking on doors of local tourist attractions, the art museum here, the St. Louis Zoo, the Missouri Botanical Garden, all of the local accounts. And we were testing wholesale. We were building a new e-commerce website, so we were trying to test direct to consumer. We were pushing corporate gifts out. We were working in our retail stores more and trying to, see if we can what we can do in the current retail environment. And really the one that ignited probably the most quickly for us and was the one that just frankly we were the most excited about was wholesale. Back in even in 2008, 2009, the fax machine was the majority of the orders. So we would still get faxes if purchase orders would be sent in. And still to this day, we still get a few faxes from customers. But I would like go my the fax machine was in my dad's. I would just would go to my dad's office every morning and like see if there was a PO in the printer. Like it was such a big deal for us as we started out really small, and then that conversation came up. Well, how much more manufacturing do we need to go? And then it really was in 2011 where we found the building that we're in today. So 2010, due to my parents' really hard work and financial discipline, we were debt free, and we decided to go buy this building and add more. We would have to renovate the building and purchase the building and add more manufacturing equipment, and that was going to be this multi-million-dollar investment. And so we were all really excited to do it, but my parents were very much like, "Are you sure? This is one of those. This is going to be one of those paths you cross that you cannot go back from. If all of a sudden you say, oh, I don't really want to grow wholesale anymore, well, now we're going to be carrying this multi-million-dollar note and we're going to have this much larger overhead. So we won't be able to, decide in 6 months, like, oh, no, I really didn't want to have, 40 employees and grow. But I was, we were young and we're still young and we were hungry and so we started, knocking on doors and started going to trade shows and finding distributor partnerships and broker partnerships and everything we could and hyperspeed. And I loved it. I still do. And I loved every second of it. And that's it's like building a snowball and talking to every single customer you can and sending samples. And, we would design our own catalogs in Photoshop and Illustrator for the first 10 years. Like we had no budget for any of this. We would do our own photo shoots. And I'm not a photographer by trade, but I used to always joke if you take 1,000 photos, one will come out the way you want.
Right.
And so now our professional photographer, she can take it once and it looks fantastic. But we were just very, very, very lean in everything we did. And then it really started kicking in about 2014. I think that's when things started like we felt like we made the right choice.
Right. Was there a marketing, I mean, a lot of it was grassroots, but was there a marketing breakthrough that you needed to start to snowball that momentum, or was it just that as more customers were trying the quality, word of mouth was getting you what you needed?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think three things happened that really defined us. One is I was with a customer one time and he really recommended taking the product natural, which we don't say all natural anymore, but our commitment to the ingredient sourcing hasn't changed. We just say clean ingredients. And he really said, this was in 2010. So now that's almost a standard if you come up with a new product line that you don't have artificial in it, but it wasn't then, 14 years ago. And he really said that should be a really big part of your portfolio. We took that to heart, and so we switched everything to sustainable cocoa. We started removing all the ingredients, and that took us maybe a year. So by 2011, we were presenting an all natural line. Then the next thing that happened was I wanted to, in the bulk side of the business, we do a lot of bulk for a lot of candy stores, and then packaged. And those are the two macros. In the bulk side of the business, I thought I'd be the gourmet cream bulk supplier to the United States because there was a lot of other competitors at the time that had the different niches, but that was a pretty wide open one. And we tried it, and it didn't really work that well. The people love the product, but just people don't buy a lot of creams. So we started doing some seasonal truffles, and it turned into a bulk truffle business. And that was the first aha moment game changer. And still to this day, a very large part of our wholesale portfolio is our bulk truffle business.
Hmm.
And then the third thing that really was the game changer, so we're into this new facility for a few years. We're all working 10, 11, 12 hours a day. The first few years we're not cash flow positive. We were, everything it's a rob Peter to pay Paul mentality for a while, and then it starts kicking in, and we start, sales outpace overhead, costs. So we were starting to get into this comfort level, and we were starting to really tax our production lines. And so my I sat down with the family. I said, well, we're getting maxed out. We need to put another line in. And this was when we had two. Now we're at nine. And the last five we've purchased are big. Uh, so the two lines that we had were significantly smaller than what we're buying today. So two small lines. I said we need to go to another line, and so my dad said, "Well, we're going to do another enrobing line," and I said, "I don't think that's what I want to do. I want to go into a one-shot line, which can do like molded pieces and chocolate bars and truffles, And he says, "Well, do you have like what are you going to make with that?" And I said, "Well, I don't know, but I think we can develop a new product line. Do we have any customers that are going to buy it?" I said, "No, but I feel like if we do, we'll find customers. Do you have any recipes that will run on the line?" I said, "No, but
So I
I
said,
think
if
we
you
can
build
develop."
it, they will come. So
Yeah, and it was very much that build. And so he was like, "Well, why?" And then what's the cost? I said, "Well, it's about three times more than just another enrobing line." "Well, how long does it take?" "It takes a year. It's out of Switzerland, and they need $100,000 down payment." And like it was the worst business model ever. And then he looked at, he's like, "What do you think? I'm an idiot?" And I just said, "Well, no, I really think we should consider this." And so I did a little bit more homework to try to share my vision with him, and then he agreed. And so we, like anything, we went to the bank. The bank gave us the money. We paid the bank back. And um, that accident or that stupid mistake I made is when the explosion of growth happened. And now, to this day, like 70% of all of our manufacturing not only comes off of that one line, we have three of them. And the third one was twice as big and twice as expensive as the first one. So,
no.
we go through tons, literally thousands of pounds per shift on those molding lines, and that has put us into um, a new line of bulk truffles, different shaped chocolates, and then the big thing was our tablet chocolate bar business. So all of those runs on all the different molding lines, and so that was, and and I'll never tell you about all the stupid mistakes that I made, but that was the one that really, really worked.
No. So that was the inflection point. And then fair to say, so Bissinger's as an acquisition came along later. That was relatively recently. How
Yeah.
did that fit into this timeline?
So we're 2016 was the new molding line, the one-shot line from Switzerland. We actually bought the next one in middle of 2017 because we were selling so many chocolate bars. It was amazing. And then what I really wanted to do was the molded shapes and pieces that we really just kind of started getting into, but I couldn't even do that because I didn't have any line time. The new line was maxed in 6 months, and that was so we said let's buy the second one, and then we did. And but in 2017 16 and 17 were very strong years for us. And there was the opportunity to buy a building down the street. It was about 25,000 square feet. Main facility that we're in right now is 30,000 square feet, which we're adding on to right now. But currently it's 30, and we were maxed out. So 2017, we have the opportunity to buy the building down the street, and we took possession in May 1st of 2018. So it was a really long time, but it was the previous owner said, I'll sell it to you, but I want to sell it after the tenant's lease runs out. So we agreed to this 9 months, where we wouldn't have it. So middle of 2018, we get the building. We spent 3 months renovating it. So we're in like September-ish of 2018, and we're used 10% of it. And I just said, it's for future growth. Well, 3 short months later is when we arrived at the Winter Fancy Food Show, winter of 2019, and find out through the rumor mill that Bissinger's was for sale. And as literally it's my dad's sister and I at the Fancy Food Show in San Francisco, and I am in my mind writing out how it like, well, we should buy the company and we can use this part of the new facility for the Bissinger's direct to consumer. We can move this line here. We could do this here. I'm redesigning the factory floor and new warehouse at a trade show, writing with a pen on the cardboard boxes that we were about to throw away. And he was like, well, we don't even know what they want for it. We don't even, and I said, well, let's just call them. And so we from San Francisco, I called, I sent him an email. I said, I heard you're for sale. Are you interested? And they responded right away and they said, well, we are, but we have a business broker and we're, investment banking firm is validating the assets and we haven't packaged it yet. And so then I was like, well, maybe, maybe we should talk before you do that. And, they said, no, we want to go through this process. So there was this, it kind of died because we didn't hear back from them until March. And then we went in March. We had a lot of questions. Like we met them right before Easter with the family. I had 50 questions. They gave me 50 answers. And then I said, okay, well, here's what we want to do. We want to buy the company. We want to do this, this, and this. We want the retail stores. We want some of the equipment. We don't want all the equipment. We want to close in 60 days. And I just rambled off the entire proposal. And it was like dead silent on the other end. And I was like, well, any questions? Like, well, yeah, we have a lot of questions. All right, well, let's bring it on. Let's get this done today. And that group was such an analytical group where I'm one of those people that if I go, let's make a deal, I want to walk out knowing what's going on and move. And they wanted to kind of reflect on it and have it written down and run numbers and calculations. And so I said, all right, well, let's talk tomorrow afternoon then. Like weeks went by because of Easter and everything else but we eventually did the deal. Obviously, it took longer than 60 days. No surprise there, but we got it done in the summer. And then we moved quickly in integrating the equipment, the team into our facility. There was construction that had to happen. There was walls that had to be opened. And we really felt comfortable in January, really more like February of 2020. And I thought this was the year. It's gonna
Yeah.
everything difficult is behind us. It's all downhill from there.
Right.
Then there was a virus out of China that came into the United States and shut everything down and changed the futures. So really, it was a macro move to direct to consumer. They had a very long-standing catalog direct to consumer division that started in the 70s. So we had a very mature customer base, and it really grew. It grew about 165% in a year and a half, which was a multi-million dollar growth period. So we were able to, even though wholesale and everything else kind of fell off, we were able to focus our efforts over there on that side. And really, wholesale was kind of that front and center concentration point again, not until the end of 22 and into 23. So
Mm.
we're really happy with how things are at now. But what we thought we were going to do in 2020 with Bissinger's, it was a completely different experience so far.
Right. Ended up being very timely for reasons you never could
It
have.
worked out very well for a lot of us. Yeah.
Well, it's a fascinating story. I know we just scratched the surface, but I think it would be pretty inspiring to a lot of early stage founders. It's a story of perseverance and stick to it and also pivot and take some risks along the way. I think there's a lot that a lot of people can learn from it. I'll tell you just as a parting closing comment, my son has eaten through about 6 packages of these. I've been doing everything possible to limit his consumption. He loves them. Um, the quality, the price to performance ratio is really excellent, right? So
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. I think a lot of retailers do, and I think a lot more should, as we get more of that product out in front of them. I think is
You
a
want to know
good.
a secret that would just between us and your thousands of followers will know? Those were a mistake. We made those caramel bites one time. They ran the wrong product on the line on the molds. It was supposed to be a truffle center. They ran a caramel center, and we were trying to figure out what to do with them. And everybody in the factory was eating them like potato chips. And I was like, "All right, done. I'm gonna make a bag."
Yep, that's all you
Yeah,
need.
and
That's
I
it.
mean, we sell seven figures worth of just those. Now we've got four flavors now, but just it's a seven-figure category for us. So
Yeah,
sometimes mistakes can work out.
it's awesome. Well, thanks for jumping on. Thanks for joining us. Congratulations
Thank
so
you.
far, and good luck in the future.
Thanks so much for having me.